think that's an issue anymore. The Indians are quite open now to the not only the US multinationals coming in, but a lot of defense purchases are happening from the United States. India's conventional supplier of defense has been Russia, but now there is a big shift underway with the United States. Today, for example, the two largest players in our e-commerce space are American companies. You got Amazon and you got Walmart. They own the largest websites on e-commerce, e-commerce is something, at least in the urban areas, impacts a very large population, which orders through these platforms. So I don't think in the minds of the people there is any hesitation with the US multinationals. I think India has come a very long way since, I would say, 1991, when the Indian economic reforms were first launched. There has been a huge change in the attitudes along many different dimensions. In those days we were very skeptical. Indians were very skeptical of growth being important. That somehow there was this view that if we focus on growth, poor will be left behind. This is very, very much accepted, and even in the last quarter, growth rate fell to 5.8%, and that was seen as being catastrophic. Now, a country which thought that growth was actually bad for the poor, to really think of even a 5.8% growth as being catastrophic is a big change. Similarly, I think in terms of the attitude towards the United States, it's a very similar change that has taken place. In the early 1990s, Americans love to lecture Indians, and Indians lectured Americans back. And I think too much irritation of the United States, because the US felt that India is actually taking our money and then lecturing us back. But all of that is behind. The 1990s itself, initial years were tough years, because President Clinton at the time was pushing India to sign this Comprehensive Testament Treaty, the CTBT. And of course, India was refusing, and it caused a lot of friction between the two sides. Eventually, of course, India did the nuclear test in 1998, and that brought its nuclear status out in the open, and that, in a way, paradoxically perhaps, opened the door to greater improvement of the US-India relations. And since then, in fact, on the US sides, there have been at least, after Clinton, there have been 3 presidents. On the Indian side, there have been probably 3 prime ministers. Unlike probably any other bilateral relationship, this is the one which has continued to improve, get better and better. I remember there used to be polls when President George Bush was the president, and he was most popular in India. So I think India has really come a long way from the days of let's say Mrs. Indira Gandhi, when President Lyndon B. Johnson and Mrs. Indira Gandhi had a very, very trying relationship, and then President Nixon and Mrs. Gandhi had a very, very prickly relations. So all that is behind us now.